Welcome, Shadow Seekers, to American Shadows, Crimes and Chronicles. Today, we're unearthing a tale that'll haunt your thoughts long after it ends. Whether you're glued to the screen or just listening in, you're in for a wild ride through history's darkest corners. If you're new, hit subscribe to join our mission of exposing America's hidden truths. Regulars, your likes fuel our journey into the unknown. Now, let's peel back the layers of time and reveal the secrets beneath. Ready? Let's begin. USS Indianapolis, the Navy's worst disaster and heroic survival. Gather round, folks, for a tale of heroism, horror, and hushed-up history. On this day, July 30th, 1945, the USS Indianapolis, a Portland-class heavy cruiser, met a fate so terrible it would haunt the U.S. Navy for decades to come. Picture this. World War II is in its final throes. The USS Indianapolis has just completed a top-secret mission. Under the command of Captain Charles McVay III, the ship and its crew of 1,196 men have delivered components of the atomic bomb to the island of Tinian. Little do they know that they've just played a pivotal role in ending the war. But their part in history is far from over. It's a few minutes after midnight. The sea is calm, the moon obscured by clouds. Most of the crew is asleep, unaware of the danger lurking beneath the waves. Suddenly, two torpedoes fired by the Japanese submarine I-58 strike the Indianapolis. "We've been hit! Abandon ship!" Captain McVay's voice cuts through the chaos. The ship's bow lifts into the air as water rushes in. Within 12 minutes, this proud vessel will slip beneath the waves, taking about 300 souls with it. Seaman First Class Clarence Donner later recalled, "I heard a sound like a heavy slam, and immediately there was a big explosion." Donner was thrown from his bunk and scrambled to topside to find chaos. Men were screaming, fires blazing, and the ship was listing heavily. But for many, the true nightmare is just beginning. Around 900 men make it into the water alive. They cling to life rafts, flotation devices, or simply each other. As dawn breaks, the full horror of their situation becomes clear. They're adrift in the Philippine Sea, with no food, little drinking water, and no rescue in sight. What follows is a brutal test of human endurance. The scorching sun blisters their skin by day. The cold seeps into their bones by night. Dehydration drives some to drink seawater, leading to hallucinations and madness. But perhaps the most terrifying aspect of their ordeal are the sharks. Oceanic whitetips and tiger sharks, drawn by the carnage, begin to circle the survivors. The men watch in horror as their comrades are dragged under, powerless to help. The lucky ones die quickly. Others suffer unimaginable agony as the predators tear them apart. Private First Class Paul McGinnis described the terror. "The sharks were around us all the time. They'd come up and bump the rafts, bump our legs. All we heard was men screaming and sharks eating them. But where is the rescue?" This is where our tale takes a dark turn into the realm of military mishaps and cover-ups. Due to a series of errors and oversights, the Navy remains unaware that the Indianapolis is missing. The ship's mission was so secret that even after it failed to arrive at its destination, no alarm bells rang. It wasn't until the evening of August 2nd, more than 3 days after the sinking, that a PV-1 Ventura aircraft on routine patrol spotted the survivors. Lieutenant Wilbur Gwynn, the pilot, noticed an oil slick and then the men in the water. "My God, there are people down there!" he exclaimed to his crew. He immediately dropped a life raft and radio transmitter, setting in motion a desperate rescue operation. Lieutenant Adrian Marks, pilot of a PBY Catalina flying boat, defied orders and landed in the heavy seas to begin rescuing survivors. He and his crew picked up 56 men that day, lashing some to the wings of the aircraft when space inside ran out. Of the approximately 900 men who survived the initial sinking, only 316 were alive when help finally arrived. The rest succumbed to exposure, dehydration, salt poisoning, and those terrifying shark attacks. But the tragedy doesn't end with the rescue. In a move that would spark controversy for years to come, the Navy court-martialed Captain McVay for failing to zigzag to avoid enemy submarines. This, despite the fact that his orders gave him discretion on whether to zigzag, and that the commander of the Japanese submarine, Mochitsura Hashimoto, testified that zigzagging would have made no difference. McVay was convicted, the only U.S. Navy captain to be court-martialed for losing a ship in combat during World War II. The weight of this judgment, along with years of hate mail from families of the Indianapolis victims, would eventually lead McVeigh to take his own life in 1968. Before his death, he told his son, "I can't take it anymore." The injustice of McVeigh's conviction didn't sit well with many, including the survivors. They knew their captain had been made a scapegoat, but it would take decades and an unlikely hero to set the record straight. Enter Hunter Scott, a 12-year-old boy from Pensacola, Florida. In 1997, inspired by a reference to the Indianapolis in the movie Jaws, Scott began a history project that would change lives. He interviewed nearly 150 survivors and reviewed 800 documents. His conclusion? McVeigh had been wrongly convicted. Scott's research caught the attention of Congress. With the support of Senators Bob Smith and John Warner, both veterans, a campaign to exonerate McVeigh gained momentum. In October 2000, thanks in large part to Scott's efforts, McVeigh was officially exonerated by the U.S. Congress and President Bill Clinton. The sinking of the USS Indianapolis remains the single largest loss of life at sea in the history of the U.S. Navy. It's a tale of courage in the face of unimaginable horror, of bureaucratic bungling with deadly consequences, and of a decades-long fight for justice. This disaster led to significant changes in Navy protocols. The failure to report policy was implemented, making it mandatory for ships to report in daily. The movement report system was revised to require all ships to be tracked on their routes. But perhaps most importantly, it led to a reevaluation of accountability in military disasters. The ordeal of the Indianapolis survivors has left an indelible mark on American culture. It's been immortalized in books, documentaries, and films. The story has become a cautionary tale about the fog of war, the importance of clear communication, and the potential costs of military secrecy. For the survivors, the impact was lifelong. Many struggled with PTSD, survivor's guilt, and a deep-seated fear of water. Edgar Harrell, who survived the sinking, said in a 2020 interview, "You never forget. You can't forget. You remember your buddies. You remember the ones that didn't make it." As we reflect on this tragic chapter of American history, we're reminded of the brutal realities of war, the courage of those who serve, and the importance of accountability in our military institutions. The story of the USS Indianapolis serves as a somber reminder that sometimes the most devastating battles are fought not against the enemy, but against the cruel indifference of nature and the failings of the very systems meant to protect us. But it's also a story of resilience, of the enduring quest for justice, and of how even the youngest among us can make a difference. From the heroism of the crew to the tenacity of a 12-year-old boy decades later, the Indianapolis saga shows us the power of human determination in the face of overwhelming odds. This is American Shadows, where we dive into the dark corners of history to shed light on the stories that shaped our nation. Until next time, remember the brave men of the USS Indianapolis, the lessons their tragedy taught us, and the long journey to set the record straight. In the echoes of their story, we find not just the shadows of our past, but the beacon for a more accountable future.